welcome back. What an amazing day we're having with so many stunning presenters, so much incredible information. And I know this session is going to just be the same. I know I always say that, but it is. I'd love to introduce for some of you, Erica Tuani. Hi, Erica.
Hi, Karen.
So Erica spoke at the very first Teachers Matter online summit, and she was telling us about her book that was coming, and she's now written the book, and we have just finished this at our Teachers Matter book club as we've been diving in. There it is, Becoming Einstein's Teacher, our incredible book that we've done a deep dive into and really got that grey matter working and thinking and challenging us. So hopefully we'll get a bit of that for this session too. So Erica, tell us, we've been asking everybody, what is your theme song and why?
Ooh, a theme song. I would say it's My Life, Bon Jovi, old school. And I think the reason why is because we live in such a difficult time right now. Wars, pandemics, so many challenges that we see around us. And I think it's an urgent time for us to act as educators to make sure that we prepare our children for this crazy world that they're growing up in, and also that they're going to face. And they're the ones that will solve all those issues that we're going to have, that we have right now.
Yeah, so wonderful. We'll add that to the playlist. Thank you so much. So let's start talking about genius. I mean, you wrote a book about awakening the genius in your students through Becoming Einstein's Teacher. So what is it? Is it something people either have or don't? Enlighten us, please.
It was one of the most fascinating researches I had to do, Karen, to write this book, is to figure it out what the genius is. Because when you talk about Einstein, you think of he's a genius, right? So what is it really? So in the dictionary definition, it says it's a single strongly marked capacity or aptitude that somebody has. And then Thomas Edison came along, the greatest American inventor, that said genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. So there's a lot of work that you have to put in to make sure that you bring your genius out. And then we had way back, the ancient Romans that said that genius is this creative spirit that is present in every individual. So these geniuses will give you arts and philosophy and music and communication and fight, so that was the definition of ancient Romans. And then by the 19th century, genius evolved to being an external being to an inborn nature. So we moved from having a genius to being a genius. And then further in the 20th century, there was researchers that created the intelligence measurement scale. And from then we understood that genius, since we understood that genius is an inborn nature, we had to measure that, how genius you are. And it's crazy stories that I tell in the book that you have to read to learn about. But for instance, the government of France established that a mandatory schooling for children, and then they used this measurement scale to say, well, these children can be in school and these children cannot be in school, just because of the measurement of what they had in here, which was terrible. And that was the same test that came to the United States in the 1900s. And then by the end of the last century, there was the most fascinating research that I also talk about in the book from Dr. George Land. He did a longitudinal study with 1,600 children for 15 years. And he measured the divergent thinking, which is the way, the capacity that we have to create new ways, to have original ideas. And then, for example, he used something very simple like, what can you do with a paperclip? You and I could say, we're going to put 2 pages together, or we're going to open the SIM card of our cell phones, right? Simple things. But children ages 3 to 5 had 30 ways to use that paperclip. It was fascinating. And not only that, 98% of them had that capacity. And then he measured again at the age of 10. And then that creative genius was just 32% of the children were creative genius. And then he measured again at the age of 15, and only 10% of that's the same group of children had this creative genius. And then over 25 years old, only 2% had that creative genius. So something happened during school years that completely messed up the creative genius of children. So in conclusion, what is the genius? The genius comes from the word in Latin, genie, that means to produce, to create, to give birth to. And education comes from the word educare, which is to bring forth from within. So both require the action of give birth, what students have within. So the genius is inside, and education brings it out. So if Thomas Edison, as he said, genius is 1% talent and 99% work, then what we ought to do is to help students develop working habits that can get them to 100% genius. That's why self-directed learning is so crucial to bring forth the genius that they have within.
Beautiful. I love that. It's all in there, and our job is to draw it out, to bring it out. That's fantastic. So tell us then, you just mentioned self-directed learning. How do we do this? How do we actually help our students to be more self-directed?
So we first must understand what self-direction is, because there's a misconception, right? We think that if you put a computer in front of a student, then they are self-directed. They'll do because they'll do everything. They'll learn because, they are familiar with technology. So we misconcept self-direction into putting a child in front of a computer, which is completely wrong. The other misconception is that self-directed learning is much more than technology. And therefore, it will require a huge transformation to make it happen. So new education policies, new school environments, new tons of teacher training, investments, apps, and all of that stuff to make self-direction happen. So those are two misconceptions, because it's very simple. So what I say is that the same way that we transitioned from the industrial era into the knowledge era, and we didn't even notice, right? You started using your phone. Now everybody has a phone. Everybody uses technology. Everybody's familiar with apps, right? So we were able to make that transition. So the same way we did that transition, we can transition from the conveyor belt education into self-directed learning. And that's exactly what I explain in the book. And what you and I do, Karen, very well, is to make sure that we simplify complex stuff, right? So in the book, we share a 6-step learning framework that will allow teachers, education leaders, parents to understand that process and to make it easier for us to develop self-direction with the students.
Thank you. Before we get into your 6-step framework, because I want to delve into that because it is fascinating, let's talk about the future of education. Artificial intelligence. I love these chapters in your book. It's happening in education right now. So what's coming and what do we need to be aware of?
I'm very passionate about artificial intelligence in education because I come from a technical background, understand it very well. And at the same time that I'm passionate, I'm very worried about how much educators, education leaders understand of what's coming. So in the book, I say that artificial intelligence or AI will surpass our biological intelligence by 2030, which is 8 years from now. And the way that AI will do that is AI will be able to do much more than we do today. I'll give you an example. For example, attorneys. What do attorneys do? They have a case, they read a lot of previous cases, and they build a justification as to why their clients are not guilty or are guilty, or so on and so forth, right? So the capacity of an attorney to understand what cases exist related to that specific thing, it must be really good. That's why the older the attorney, the better, because they will have more experience and more knowledge, right? AI can do that in seconds, can scan millions of documents and figure it out the way to put together something that will justify why that client is not guilty. Another example is a doctor. AI can diagnose diseases way much faster and more precise than a human being. And imagine this, it takes years, a decade to get a doctor ready to start their career. And then more years of experience until we can trust that doctor. But AI, we just give a little adjustment in the algorithm and bam, we have the best doctor. Investors, AI can make investment decisions in milliseconds. And then you and I will be thinking, oh my God, should I buy this house? Should I buy that house? Should I invest in this stock? Should I do this or should I do that? AI is analyzing so much data and can do this, it can do it like this. This is the world that the children that are in school today will live by 2030. So as biological human species, we will benefit from AI significantly, right? Why? I mean, who doesn't want to be consulting with the best doctor and the best attorney? AI would do that. But at the same time, it can alienate us from our ability to think, to reason, to create, to imagine. That's why it's so important for us that we have to become aware of what's coming and develop together our biological intelligence. And while AI will do the repetitive work, we human beings will be able to do many other things that require creativity and imagination. And those so important skills that we must make sure that our children are practicing in school today. I'll be more than happy, Karen, to eventually in the future talk exclusively about AI in one session, you and I.
Okay, you're on. What fascinates me, and I think you mentioned it in the book actually, is that we've all already been victims of AI for our biological brain, because there used to be a time when we could all remember phone numbers, right? And now,
that's right.
Who remembers a phone number? It's like they're all in your phone. Why would you need to know that? But what that's doing is taking away our capacity for memory, taking our capacity for learning to do those simple little things, retention, which is still going to be important, right?
Yeah, however, the way I see it is that now that we have a phone to remember numbers and remember schedule and to get our emails and give us directions, so we don't have to read a map anymore, right? You remember when you had this paper map that we had to follow? Oh man, it was a lot of work. Now we have time for other stuff. We have room to be more creative, to create the next big thing, and transform and do things that we never imagined before. Many centuries ago, when people that lived before had to bring water to their houses, had to walk to the river and bring water to their houses. It was a lot of time that they had to do that we don't have that. We don't even think about that. We just take it for granted. So the same thing. I mean, we have a phone. Let's take it for granted that a phone can remember all that stuff for us. But also let's make sure that we're very aware of the things that we can do. And I do believe that AI will force us, if we accept the challenge, to get to the next level of what it is to be a human being.
Oh, nice perspective. I do want to know more. So you're on next time. Okay. So tell us about your 6-step process, please, because in the levels of autonomy, because I think this is fascinating.
So we have to first start from a concept that Dr. Anders Ericsson researched and developed for many, many years, is that, and that it takes 10,000 hours for us to be an expert on anything. And students spend 16,800 hours, K through 12, in school, practicing these skills while learning the curriculum. So if students are just sitting and waiting for the teacher to tell them what to do, that's what they're going to be experts on. But if students are practicing skills coached by their teachers while learning the curriculum, that's what they're going to be experts on. So what we want is that for them to have this opportunity to have so much practice that they can master skills for life. And that's exactly what the 6 steps aim for. So we use the same principles to deliberately develop our biological intelligence, as we said, right? About biological intelligence to the highest extent possible. So I'll give you another example. Did you know that Australian, and I know we're going to have a lot of Australian teachers here, Australian Jay Hindley, he's a bike rider. He won Giro d'Italia just about 2 weeks ago. It was about April timeframe, more or less. So it was a great thing to see an Australian winning that ride. So 5-time Tour de France winner Eddie Merckx, he said once, what do you have to do to win races? And he said, ride your bike, ride your bike, ride your bike. So Olympic athletes enjoy training, best-selling authors enjoy writing, successful business people enjoy selling, scientists enjoy researching, and our conclusion is that they have joy in the process of achieving a big goal. So how can we do that? How can we make sure that students have joy in the process of learning? Because that will benefit them for life. So in summary, the 6 steps are, the first one is set goals and plan, which develops abilities of goal setting, organization, work effectiveness, decision-making, responsibility, accountability, self-regulation, self-monitoring, perseverance, self-direction, and so on. So many skills just by allowing students to set goals and plan. The second one is explore, which is to find meaning in what you're learning. So for instance, let's say that we're learning about the clouds. What do you know about the clouds? What happens when there's dark clouds or fluffy clouds? So you present a lot of questions for children so they can explore what they are ready. And then we're developing meaning, purpose, self-awareness of what you already know, exploring past knowledge. Then the third step is research, which now we allow students to go out and explore what resources, whatever resources they have around them, internet, books, magazines, interviewing people, whatever. They gather information. So they develop skills like inquiry, critical thinking, reading comprehension, discernment, to understand if a source is good or not. Then the 4th step is practice, which is now we can include, for instance, a project-based learning. We can include writing a song, doing a dance, writing a poem, doing so many things to bring whatever the students like. That has a lot of the personalization of the student experience, and what they like, they will do, right? We have students that love writing songs. They will write a song about what they have learned. So that develops creativity, collaboration, leadership, project-based learning, so on and so forth. Then the 5th step is let's relate what we learn to our lives. This is extremely important because now you have to hold on. How am I going to use this in my life? And remember, the continuous practice of that step, always make sure that whatever students are learning throughout their lives, they will always be able to relate because they're used to it. It's going to be natural. Remember the 10,000-hour practice. And then finally, the self-assessment, which develops intrinsic motivation and perseverance, because students will look back and say, whoa, I did all of that. I developed all these skills. I can do this. I can accomplish this. I'm capable. And as soon as we can trigger that little thing of, I can do this, then there's a whole new level of intrinsic motivation going on. Now, have you noticed how many skills we developed while going through the 6 steps over and over and for every single subject? It's absolutely amazing to see in a couple of months how students evolve in their self-direction. So if a student wants to learn anything, they have the blueprint in their hands that they can use to learn play guitar, invest in cryptocurrency, learn to ride a bike. All they need, it's already there.
Absolutely. Such a simple.
I think I talk too much.
No, no, absolutely. All those skills embedded within there is absolutely huge. So and absolutely important. The executive function that's happening there, the ability, and the statistic that continually stuns me, Erica, is what you said about the 16,800 hours. And, you know, what many of our kids are good at is sitting and waiting for an instruction. That's not what we want them to be when they're leaving school, having 16,000 hours practicing that. What if they have had 16,800 hours practicing these skills and really prepare them for life? So thank you for that great reminder. So I'm curious now, where does the role of metacognition fit in this?
Oh man, it has absolutely everything. I think is one of the secret sauces of making sure that this works. Is the ultimate tool for development of any skill and social emotional skills as well. Because imagine this, every time you get to the end of the steps, which is the last one, is a metacognition process, a self-assessment, and you say, let me see how I did. And then you evaluate step by step. Well, I did well. I planned my time well. I have to improve in this area. I have to do this, work more on this skill or that skill. But just by the fact that you were able to do it yourself, it's a huge motivation. So metacognition, the metacognition process allows oneself to identify areas in which they're really good at this time, and areas that they have to improve. There's a story I share in the book, Karen. I'm not sure if you remember. There's a whole chapter about self-assessment and the importance of metacognition. He talks about the story of Alex Honnold. Alex Honnold is a climber who climbed El Capitan. It's a wall, a granite wall in the United States. It's almost 1 mile up. And he climbed that wall without ropes. But he trained before with the ropes to make sure that he could do it and find the best route and everything. What he was pretty much doing is he was planning the route, he was practicing on the route, and he was going through a process of metacognition. He was self-assessing himself and his abilities to make sure that they could do it. One quote that I have in the book that says, amateurs practice until they can get it right. Professionals practice until they cannot get it wrong. So
I love that
difference.
Quote. Yeah, I absolutely love that quote. Yeah, carry on.
So students today in the traditional schooling, what they're doing is they're practicing the subject until they can get right on the test. That's what they're doing. But what we are doing with the self-direction and the 6 steps in the metacognition process is to make sure that they practice until they cannot get it wrong. So that's life. That is life. And for us to make sure that they are successful and they have the right tools to thrive in their lives, that's what you and I have to do.
Yeah, beautiful reminder. Thank you so much to be able to have that. Yeah, I think sometimes in school we just stop when the test happens, or we go on to the next unit, but often we need so much more time and practice to be able to do it so we can't get it wrong. That's always something that I watch when you watch those jugglers with 10 balls in the air. They have just done it so many times they can't get it wrong. When I watch illusionists, the same thing, right? They have just practiced until they can't get it wrong. And that's always stunning to me. Erica, thank you so much.
Can you imagine our students, if we could say, look at them after they graduate from high school and say, that students cannot get perseverance wrong. That students cannot get self-awareness wrong. That student cannot get planning wrong. That student can do this. oh man, it would be such an amazing feeling, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Such an amazing feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. So teachers, I'm going to ask you this question because it's the title again of Erica's book, but what would you do if you were Einstein's teacher? Because every student in your class has that genius within them. And so what would you do, and what can you do, and what are you going to do to really pull this genius out of these learners and to awaken that in them, which is, again, what Erica's book is all about. Erica, thank you so much.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
Can I say something about Einstein?
Yes.
When teachers are reflecting on Einstein, did you know that Einstein dropped out of high school?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that he did not like authoritarian teachers, and that he always had a different way to do things and get to the answer, even better answers. So when we think about students, let's make sure that we consider that. Talking about the genius of Einstein, let's make sure that we consider those things as well. It will be interesting.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm curious, Erica, what are you reading? What are you watching? What are you listening to that's totally inspiring you right now?
So I'm reading a book right now called The Alignment Problem. And it's about machine learning and human values. I like to continue to research on artificial intelligence and how it impacts our values as human beings. But interestingly enough, this book is fascinating because it talks about a lot about how brain learns and how neuroscientists are joining forces with engineers to develop artificial intelligence based on how our brain learns. So it's fascinating. I highly recommend that book. It's The Alignment Problem by Brian Christian is the author.
Thank you.
I'm also reading a book called Poor Economics. The two authors, they won the Nobel Prize in 2019. It's fascinating. There's a whole chapter about education there. We talk a lot about how poor cannot go to school because they're hungry or because it's distant, because they have to work. Those are false thoughts and assumptions. So it's fascinating to read that and how they provide the answers.
Oh, that has definitely piqued my interest. I'll have to add that to my own personal book list. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Erica, again, always wonderful to chat with you. I know that you have been waiting for 2 years to come visit New Zealand, and you're coming.
Yes.
For what would be our summer holidays. So we hope that the weather shines down on you and that you really enjoy your time here. And I'm hoping that you and I can somehow get together during that time. So I'm looking forward to it. So again, thank you for your honesty, your thought-provoking ideas, and for the work that you do in education. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Karen, for having me.
My pleasure. Our pleasure. Teachers, if you're watching these in order, this is the last session of day 1, and well done if you've got through them all. If you're still going, keep going. Please make sure that you have a look at the Facebook page. Let's go and have a conversation about genius. What do you think? What's your favorite quotes? What do you do to bring out that genius in your learners? And make sure you go into the wonder room. And so grab your bubble, go and have a conversation with some random person, just like you might do at a real conference, face-to-face conference, where you can have a chat with people. So if you haven't checked out the wonder room, go and check it out. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye for now.